Welcome back to the Dalitalks podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about advocacy, specifically advocacy for your child at a school. There are so many parents out there who have no idea that they have a lot of power when it comes to, speaking up for your child. In the Latinx community or the Latino community, we see this a lot because in our countries, the educators are kings. They are held up on a pedestal, and it's rare to question them because they're trusted as the experts. And it's not just with teachers, it's even with like doctors. Some people, they just go into the doctor and the doctor says, do this, and they're like, okay, and they don't even question it, which is, we know that that's wrong because you got to have answers about the suggestions that are being provided because it's your body, right? It's your life. So when it comes to education, Latinos do this a lot where the teacher says, oh, your child is misbehaving. They're like, oh, they are, and they believe them without giving your child a benefit of doubt. And when it comes to advocating for them, say in bullying situations, sometimes that happens where the parent will be like, oh, well, I was told that you did this, and and then they don't look further into the situation. And if their child is the one who bullied another child, then they feel like, well, what can I ask for? I got nothing to ask for because my child did do this, even when the child admits to it, right? But even then, you have the right to advocate for your child, even if your child hurt another person, because the school is there to provide the resources to help your child thrive, whether they were the victim or whether they were the one exhibiting bullying behaviors. Just because a child hurts another child doesn't make them a bad person. Children make mistakes. They make poor choices sometimes, just like adults, right? And we all know people in our lives who have made poor choices and are still good people. I know that that's hard for a child to comprehend, even for some adults to comprehend. But just because somebody makes a mistake doesn't mean that you let them be and not do anything to help them not make that mistake again, or not choose poorly in the future. So I was speaking with Graciela Tiscareño Sato, who is an author, and she's a big advocate for her own children as well as others, actually. And she responded to a post that I published yesterday, yesterday was the 31st of March. And this post, you can find it. The cover on my Instagram feed is you can ask whether you have kids in school or not. That's what the cover title is. But if you tap onto it, you'll see a video that I responded to of a man who is telling I think it's the school board about his bullying experience, and one of the board members, the superintendent, was the one who bullied him when he was in school. And this man is now a grown man, probably in his 40s. And you can hear the pain in his voice as he recollects the event. And that superintendent, as a response, steps down as superintendent of that school district. Very powerful, very unlikely too. And sometimes these people that are holding some political seats, they're there because they want to make a change, but also because they love the power that those seats provide. I think that's one of the main problems in our political society today, that these people start off with a noble cause and they get so wrapped up in the politics and the power that they lose sight of why they're really there. People don't understand that even the smallest political seat has power, and that you, as a member of society, have every right to speak up. But the reality is that when you speak up alone, it is harder to be heard. But when you have friends accompanying you and speaking up with you, then you have even more power. And I wish our society everywhere in the United States would understand that. And this is not just something that works when you do it in the masses. Here in the United States, this works anywhere in any part of the world, right? Where you have an issue, you go before the right committee or board or people, you state your grievance, and then you provide solutions. That is the key to getting the change that you want. You can't just go and make complaints. You have to know how to talk so that you're heard. Shouting, insulting, offending people gets you nowhere. People will completely dismiss everything that you're saying, even if it makes sense. If you're shouting, if you have a very defensive tone. So I was talking again with Graciela, and she's been an advocate for her child because her child was born with a hearing loss. And I believe also visual, like she cannot see. And so she's had to be an advocate, and she feels that a lot of parents are doormats, as she said. You can see her comment in the post that I mentioned earlier of that man addressing the superintendent. And I love Graciela, she means really well, but that statement about parents being doormats, I know that parents don't want to be doormats. No parent wants to be used, that way. They don't want to be stepped on, but a lot of them are, because they're afraid, and also because they don't understand or know the power that they hold. So we are all taxpayers, whether you are here, documented or undocumented, whether you're naturally born here or naturalized, you are taxpayers, right? And, or at least should be taxpayers. And that's what pays our public education. That's why it is free. It's a social program, a socialist-based program. Anything that we get for free comes from that idea of helping one another through our taxes. Just like our roads, right? Roads are free for the most part. I know you have tolls here and there, whatever, but for the most part in the United States, roads are free because they're paid for by taxpayer money. So in the United States, we have an understanding that if you're a taxpayer, you have the right to ask the government, regardless of what level government, how they're spending that money. And if there is a problem, you speak up, you point it out, and then you suggest the solutions. So as a parent with children, or even without children at a school, you have the right to request a meeting with the leaders, send in an email, mail in a letter, or set up a phone call with those leaders so that you can discuss what is concerning you. When you see parent groups, I think that the majority of the population sees parent groups such as PTA, parent-teacher associations, or PTOs, parent-teacher organizations. They see them as a social club. And they refer to them as, these moms that like to bake and, have fundraisers, baking cookies and brownies. And it's very demeaning because, first of all, those cookies and brownies is what funds a lot of the books for your children. A lot of people don't know that. I was speaking to a prior or retired school principal, and she was telling me that in her school of 1,500, her operating budget for the entire school district was only $45,000. My kids attended an elementary school of, I think it was about 2,000 kids, if I'm recalling correctly. And their budget, their expenses just for printing materials, they're at the school, you know how teachers have assignments and they have to go make copies for the kids, for the whole classroom to have the worksheet to work on. That was $21,000, and it was not even like, it wasn't even at the end of the school year. So $45,000 doesn't go far. And this is something that parents are unaware of. And they're unaware because they don't have the time to be involved. A lot of parents don't have the luxury to go volunteer at the schools, to go attend parent-teacher meetings sometimes, depending on their schedule and the type of job that they have. A lot of parents don't even have the opportunity to speak with other parents because of whatever they have going on in their lives, right? So no, it's not that parents like to be treated like doormats, to be stepped on. It's that they don't have the luxury to be able to go to the school and inform themselves. And yes, I know that you might be saying, okay, well, you can't go to the school, but you certainly can send an email or use your lunchtime to call. But those parents that don't have awareness, they also don't know that they're able to do that, or that they have the right to contact the school leaders. So let's not judge our parents, please. Instead, let's educate them. If you are a parent leader and you know what it takes to advocate for anything that your students need at that school, or that your parents need to help the students thrive, then please don't judge, and instead educate parents. You know, I have always had a full-time job and I have my business. And one of the things that I've done is I become a parent volunteer that coordinates events, or like say like volunteers. So for example, when my kids were in elementary school, I was a parent volunteer coordinator because it was convenient to me to do it from home. I would get emails from the teachers and you know, email requests about what they needed. And like, I need, you know, 3 parents to volunteer for reading time with the kids that are behind. So I need 5 parents for this many kids. So I would go to my roster of volunteers and I would start calling the parents and ask them, you know, hey, do you need help or can you help Mrs. So-and-so for reading time at this time? It's only for a half hour or an hour. And it was a lot of work, but I was able to help. And I didn't know that that was possible until I began speaking with other teachers. A lot of teachers also told me that if you cannot volunteer in the classroom, but you're willing to help, they can send certain materials home with their child for you, the parent, to help while you're watching your TV shows, or, you know, have a little bit of free time. So I remember I did volunteer for that, and my kids were they came home with a bag, and the teachers included everything. Let me tell you, they had scissors, tape, staplers, the staple. They had these laminated things that they were needing help to like cut out and staple together, because it was going to be used for an activity with the kids. And I cannot tell you how many times I helped with that. And it was just like, it was easy because I was just doing that while I was waiting on laundry to be done or watching something, you know, and the kids even helped. And then I would just send it back the next day. And that freed up so much of their time, because teachers don't have a lot of time in the classroom to prep for the next day. And so a lot of them have to take their work home. But through that volunteer work from home, I learned that I could ask for the volunteer roster and reach out and connect the teachers to the parents. And just doing that allowed every parent that volunteered to have exposure to the school culture, to be able to talk to teachers and learn from them about what they needed. And once you learn about what teachers need and what your students need, then you can start proposing ideas, especially when you're kind of seeing what exactly is working or not working in the classroom. All right, so I want to make sure that I'm explaining myself in regards to how you can take action. Remember that if you want to find out who the leaders are in your school district, you can go to your school district website, or you can simply ask one of the admins at your child's school. The other thing I really would like to put out there is that school districts have mandatory school board meetings. They're held typically once a month, and anybody from the public is welcome to attend. If you have something to say, and I hope that you have something to say, whether it's a compliment or maybe a grievance, you should look at their website, the school district's website, and look for something related, for wherever it is that they mention the school board meetings. If you're not sure where to look, call the school district or ask your school principal or anybody at the school to give you the link to where you can submit a request to address the school district. Usually you have a very short time to speak to them. They put you on a list. You have usually about 5 minutes tops, and they do this because if they don't put a limitation on how long you can speak to them, it can go on for hours. I mean, they're long as it is because it touch on different topics. Now, I want you to know that when you address the school district, and you request something, they're not going to decide on that right there and then. Usually they hear you out. After the meeting, they take things into consideration. You might have to go back and request an update, depending on what it is that you're asking, because sometimes they have to get approvals, they have to find money for whatever it is you're requesting, if it's something that requires funding. They also might reach out to you again to get more information or to help plan whatever it is that you requested. So I can't give you a blanket answer on this is what's going to happen, because it really depends on that request. If you have a grievance, please make sure that you're very detailed on what that is. If you have to provide an example, then try to make it clear and succinct, not too elaborate, because you only have 5 minutes. Just hit those important points that you want them to be aware of, and provide the solutions. I always tell parents or anybody addressing a politician or a person holding a public seat that when you provide at least 3 solutions, you're showing that you've thought it through and that you want to be part of the solution, and that you're also helping, because politicians are humans just like you and me. They don't have the answers to everything. They have access to more resources because of who they are, what seat they hold, and who they're connected to. But even then, they don't have all the answers. And what is most powerful is when they find a solution that comes from the community and then they implement it. That usually is what gets them elected. When people see, oh, I can go and tell the school board member about an issue, and they'll actually do something to help solve the problem, then that looks good on them, right? And that creates trust by the community, and that results in re-election. Remember that these positions are political positions. School board members are a political position. A lot of people don't realize that. They do get paid, but they do a lot of volunteer work. They don't get paid like very handsomely like some other politicians at higher levels do, but they're being paid by public funds, by taxpayer funds. So it is your job to make sure that as a taxpayer, you are getting the results that you want, or that you are holding them accountable. There are so many things that I wish community members, not just parents, knew about the power of speaking up. I didn't know that, I didn't know a lot of this information until I started getting involved as a parent. And usually, if something happens at your school that impacts you personally, that's when you truly get involved. And it's sad that that's what it takes, but that's a reality. I mean, I wouldn't have gotten involved so much had my child not been bullied when she was 5. I was already involved in the sense of always going to, meetings, and I became a member of a parent committee, which was super helpful and insightful. And that was just a small way of me getting involved because I wanted to make sure that I could make a difference. And I've always been like that just because maybe because I was in the military and I saw the importance of getting involved into small little groups where you could speak up and, share ideas and, be part of something small. And here I am today, at a larger scale, providing information like this to you, to other people. And there's nothing to be scared of. I just want you to know that there is nothing to be scared of because, yeah, you're going to have some bullies that don't like being held accountable by the public. So the smart thing to do is to form an alliance with people who share your values and your ideas, who are going to back you, who are also going to speak up with you. And usually that's an easy thing to do by speaking to teachers, some of the staff, some of the community members, your kids' parents, your kids' friends as parents. Have a conversation and tell them, hey, did you know that this is happening? How do you feel about it? Would you like to speak up with me? Would you like to back me on this? There's going to be a lot of no's because people get scared. But until we show that speaking up is not something scary, and, until we show that change can be made, then people will start backing you and taking on their own initiative, their own cause. There's a big chance that this is going to take some time because, again, society is used to being complacent. It's sad. We see that at the national scale when it comes to voting. I mean, you have countries where voting is mandatory, so of course everybody goes. Other countries where voting has been an option that has not existed for people. So then when that option opens up, people show up in the masses. And then we live here in the United States where voting for every single political seat is an option and it's open to everybody. And people don't exercise their right to vote, to speak up. And it's sad because it's really a missed opportunity to improve your communities, especially to improve the community for your children. The education system is not perfect. I mean, it's, in my opinion, not even good for the possibilities that the United States can have. But it is definitely something that can be fixed, not overnight, but with the power of the people, of community members. So I urge you to please speak up, even if your children are not in school anymore. You are a taxpayer. You are paying for public education, whether your kids are receiving it or not. Even if you are homeschooling, you are paying taxes for those public schools in your area. And if something there at that school is bothering you because it's going to impact your children, your family, your quality of life, and your community, then please speak up. I can go on and on and on about this because I'm so passionate about it. And I've seen it work. I've seen it work at the highest office in 2008. Yeah, I think it was 2008 or 2009. I wrote the President of the United States I wrote his wife, the vice president. I wrote the Speaker of the House. I wrote so many people because I was in need of help, because I was not being heard at the lower levels here in my state. And I got a letter back within 2 weeks. I have been writing legislators since I was 20. And I remember it was a shock that I received a letter. And back then it was Senator Barbara Boxer who I wrote, because I had an issue on the military installation I was stationed at. And it was incredible to know that I was actually heard, that somebody had taken the time to help me out. And my issue was solved because this person intervened on my behalf. And I have done it at the very lowest level. Even in PTA, even at the school site councils, which not all schools have, but the school site councils is a pretty much like a committee. It's a council, made up of different people, the principal, some teachers, community members, parents, and staff. And they gather once a month and they decide on how to spend that school year's budget and how to address certain issues. So if you have a parent organization at your school, and maybe you're not a member of it, an official seat holder this year, attend the meetings anyway. You can still be part of that by attending, by even reading the minutes online. You can always call the school and ask for the minutes for the last PTA meeting, or for the last school site council meeting, for the last ELAC meeting, for the last African American Parent Committee meeting, whatever parent committee meeting or council they have, or school board meeting they have. You have the right to ask for the minutes, where it should show everything that was discussed and decided, and sometimes even what they plan on discussing the next meeting. So I think I've provided enough information for you to kind of get an idea of the importance of speaking up and how you can get involved. Don't underestimate the power of volunteers. They are incredible. They have sometimes even saved schools from falling to the wayside, because they see the importance of what's needed. They share ideas, they implement plans, and they help schools improve. So whether you're volunteering from home or at the school, don't underestimate the value of that. I appreciate you, and I know that a lot of other people appreciate you, even if we don't know you personally, because you are making a difference. And what is most beautiful about parent involvement or community involvement is that when kids see you speaking up for them, they feel valued. There is something so beautiful and powerful when I used to go to the school and help monitor kids during recess, or when I would help pass out lunches for like a certain event, or when I just helped by providing ideas on how to approach a certain event coming up, even the trunk or treats. Kids feel so proud of their parents who are involved. It's really, really beautiful. And that is a way of also showing love for your children. Even your children's friends will appreciate it, and they'll think, wow, this is so cool that this person's doing this for us. So keep that in mind. If you were a child whose parent was always volunteering, just go back to that memory. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of those kids. My mom had no idea about volunteer work, about, how to get involved. But her situation was a lot different. It was more like, let's get on survival mode and let me, make sure that my kids are fed and that they have home, shelter and all that, and safety. So when I said in the past, during this conversation, that some people don't have the luxury to be involved. That's what I mean. Like, that's one of many examples of what parents are going through. So don't judge the parents that are not involved, because you don't know what their situation is. And even if they are able to, but they're too scared, don't judge, because you have no idea what traumas they have. You have no idea what they've been through. So instead, let's show them, because when we show parents that there are possibilities, that fear starts to go away and the courage starts to come in. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that you took something out of this. Share this with a parent that doesn't know how to get involved or doesn't know that they have a power in their voice. Empower them with this episode. And let me know if you have any questions. Post them in the comments below. And if you don't feel comfortable asking a question there or telling me about what you thought about this, remember that you can always email me at info@dalitalks.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.
Hey, did you like that episode? If you did, be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you may be listening and write a review. If you want more tips or some behind-the-scenes videos, make sure to follow my mom at Dalitalks on Instagram. You can turn on notifications for her posts and stories as well. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. See you next time.